Last menu under agent options is the Eth0 GRE monitoring menu item 19. Let me read the description. This enables Eth0 port to be used for ARP spoofing to process tunnel packets routed to Eth0 port. So what this basically means is we can actually use the management port Eth0 of the Infinitium appliance to receive packets over a tunneled connection like GRE ERSpan coming from a switch or router. Once Eth0 receives the packets coming from the switch and router, it processes those packets as if the Eth0 port or management port is a typical monitoring or capture port. So essentially, we are creating another monitoring port or virtual interface, but instead of the usual capture port, it's using the management port Eth0 for this purpose. It's pretty cool, right? So we can say that this is somewhat similar to tunnel termination that we talked about previously. Remember when we turned on and entered an IP used for tunnel termination to a monitoring port or interface under interface options? But this one is kind of a small scale implementation. This one, Eth0 GRE monitoring, is primarily ideal for small office or remote site or a small network traffic that we needed to monitor traffic from. In such cases, you may actually do not need a full-blown 10 gig fiber capture interface and then having to use network tap or span connection to get visibility on certain small parts of the network. We may not need that much, right? In a lot of use cases, Eth0 GRE monitoring is used like an on-demand kind of thing. We may only need it to monitor certain traffic temporarily. This option is what we may just need. Just enable Eth0 GRE monitoring to do the trick, right? And once we are done, we can just turn it off. Let me show you a demo on how this is configured. So here are the steps that we can follow enabling Eth0 GRE monitoring. And let me bring over my setup. So we'll open up local console and under agent options, number 9, we'll enable Eth0 GRE monitoring. So this GRE monitoring, they are actually off by default. To turn it on, we press 19 and then it turns on. So after that, what we need to do, we're gonna restart the process so that it affects the change. Right, so to reset, we'll do agent reset. While the process is restarting, let me explain what's happening. So once we come back and open up the local console, after this restart, it will actually create an additional virtual interface. So it will get registered under menu item 7 under interface options. So it will add a virtual interface. The virtual interface number will gonna be the next available interface number in that interface options. Once this comes up, we should be able to see that interface. So it's still coming up and we're just gonna wait until it comes up. All right, I think it's up and running now. Let's double check. So we're gonna go to interface options 7. Okay, now you'll see the virtual interface 7 gets created, right? It wasn't here before, remember? So it gets created. So this will gonna be the virtual interface where we will gonna receive packets from the switch or router, right? Okay, so what is the next step? Let me just move this aside. What we're gonna do is we will enable tunnel parsing on a newly created virtual interface, which is interface number 7. So we'll going inside that interface 7. All right, you actually see here that the toggle tunnel parsing is actually on. So why do we need to turn this on? Because remember, the traffic that we're receiving from the switch or router, they're actually ERSpan or GRE tunnel packets. We need to be able to see inside the packet. Hence, we need to parse them, right? We need to parse the tunnel so that we're able to process the inside of the packet. So we need to turn this on, all right? So we know that it's already turned on and we already restarted. The next step is to configure switch router to forward ER-span traffic to the port configured to the InfiniStream management port Eth0. This part, in a lot of cases, we will gonna have a network guys to actually configure this for us. So here's an example of the configuration that we can do on a switch. Here's my IP. The destination IP is my InfiniStream management port. That's where the traffic will gonna fall into. All right. Looks like this is already configured in my switch. What we're gonna do next is we'll actually just need to open up our Ingenious One console and make sure that it's actually receiving traffic. So let me bring over my Ingenious One console. As you see here, I opened up already the device configuration and I already did a relearn. If I open this up, I will be able to see the interface 7 and I should be able to see traffic on that interface. So to view traffic, I can go to traffic monitor under the troubleshoot column. And then let's look for interface 7. So this is my interface 7. It's 100 megabits per second and I hit launch. So now you see that I'm actually receiving packets. I do have a few here that's getting classified. If I open up one of them, let's say HTTPS, right? So I click on here. Oh, that's DNS. Let's pick the HTTPS right there. And let's look into the packet. You will see here that the packets that we're getting from the switch, they're actually GRE and ER-span tunnel packets. Looks like it is working. We're seeing the packets. We're seeing traffic from that management port Eth0 that we configured. Let me set this aside and actually we can go back to the local console, and then other way to check whether traffic is actually being received by interface 7, you can run get dump perf and then 7, right? You'll see here that if I run it again, I'm actually receiving and processing packets. Also, session records are also getting created. So looks like our Eth0 GRE monitoring works. So like I said, in a lot of cases, we are doing this just temporarily. We can actually turn that off once we are done, right? So once you turn that off, and then you can restart the process, and then that will disappear, the virtual interface. Okay, that's it for Eth0 GRE monitoring.